All right, welcome to another episode of the podcast. And this is going to be a really fun episode because we're going to talk about some great AI and AI agent research and origin story. And then we're going to talk about how it becomes a product. And our two guests today are Issam Laradji and Anitha Raghavan. And they represent both sides of that story. And before we get deep into it, I want to have both of them introduce themselves because later on in the episode, I'm going to actually be quiet and they're going to really talk to each other about how they created this great idea of InsightsBench. So Issam, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got into this.
Yeah, so my name is Issam Laradji. I'm here a research scientist. And at ServiceNow, one of the things we've been looking into is how to extract actionable insights from enterprise data, not just statistics or trends, but insights that help people and businesses make decisions. So the thing is, we have access to a huge amount of data, but the challenge isn't just extracting insights, it's also evaluating how good those insights are. There are so many tools and models that try to generate insights, but it's hard to tell whether those insights are actually meaningful or just noisy. So we thought maybe we could build a benchmark that evaluates them maybe reliably and at scale.
Well, I mean, that makes sense because that's what all of these AI tools and AI agents are doing is taking all this information we have, which ServiceNow is great at, and turning it into something. And so, Anitha, explain how that works and introduce yourself for the other side of the story.
Of course. My name is Anitha Raghavan, and I'm in the product management team here. And we all have been there, staring at endless spreadsheets, trying to make sense of the numbers, which just refuse to cooperate. So now imagine an AI can actually analyze all the data and tell you something useful. No coffee, no overtime, just plain insights. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, today we are going to dive into this fascinating topic, how AI is moving beyond just analyzing the data and actually start generating insights that businesses can use.
And of course, at the end, we're gonna really get into the cool part. We're gonna talk about AgentPoirot, which I think is the name alone makes this, the great mystery we're going to solve in the next 30 minutes. But to really get deep into this, there's a lot of backstory, which we want to cover briefly with you, Issam, and this origin story of really where AI and AI analytics and then into the path of AI agent comes into. So what areas were you looking at and these actionable insights that you thought were important for enterprises and for personal use cases?
We found that a lot of the AI-generated insights today are too shallow. So they might show some correlations, but they don't really tell you why it matters or what to do about it, like the actionability of it. So we thought that in order to improve the AI analytics capabilities, we need a benchmark that measures the insight quality, not just the accuracy, but also the depth and the actionability. So that's how we want to push the tech forward.
When you have all this information, I'm assuming there's this assumption that all this data makes sense and can easily be actionable, but you need a benchmark, correct? So how does that benchmark get formed or planned? Explain this benchmarking concept.
Yeah, so just to give context about this benchmark was that we used to rely on humans to evaluate these AI-generated insights. They generated manually. But when you do it manually, it's very slow, expensive, and hard to scale. But now we have some nice recent advances in large language models or in AI capabilities. And we realized that we could use AI to evaluate AI. So we use AI to evaluate AI's ability to create insights. So we built a framework, the benchmark, that automates this insight evaluation while still reflecting the human level expectation of making sure that the insights are of quality. So this is where InsightBench was born as a reliable, scalable benchmark for AI-generated business insights.
Well, I mean, that's really fascinating because we've gone past this idea in a very short time that AI is this thing that's going to do things to now we can use AI to make our AI better, which sounds like science fiction. Now it's science fact that Anitha, I'm sure when you saw this, you're like, okay, wait a second here. This is a product. How do we productize this? What's the word that you use for this? Productize it? Okay. So Anitha, explain how you collaborate with the research team for this project.
So we collaborated very closely with the research team, not only just to develop those insights for, say, these large data sets, like think of the complexity of how what you find in healthcare or telecom. So it's not just the goal of just producing those insights, but making sure that they are meaningful and they are being evaluated for their correctness. So that's where this insights, not only just generating the insights comes in, but also how do you evaluate it and what methodology to use. And that's where Issam's insights bench come into play. So the real challenge for us was not just making sense of data, but also guiding the users to take right actions based on those accurate insights. After all, staring at data all day without knowing what to do next is definitely not enjoyable. And also, looking at wrong insights is not correct either. So we just wanted to make sure that we provide those accurate insights. And that's where Issam's work and ours kind of come into play.
That sets up that next question of, these capabilities were not already in place, or was this something we were looking for? And I mean, those who are using AI, was this a back burner idea, or was this kind of a new idea?
Some of these capabilities already existed, but they were using NLQ, the natural language querying, to pull those insights in. But we saw an opportunity to go deeper, right? Like think of deep root cause analysis, trend detection, actionable predictive insights. All of these places, they all need these advanced LLM capabilities, right? That's where Issam's research work comes into play, where that's what sparked this collaboration. How do we use these deep insights that we got, and how do we let our users kind of get these deep insights from the data? So it was not something that was not there at all. It did exist, but we kind of added more depth to it.
Was this something that the customer was already looking for? Was this something that they were starting to ask for?
Absolutely. So customers found NLQ really useful in pulling all the data, but they definitely wanted to get true insights, right? Accurate insights. They are always starting to look at how do I identify patterns, anomalies, and forecasts without them being data scientists. So they want that flexibility, as well as, with those rapid advancements in AI that we saw, they began to ask us, like, how do we go deeper? Can the system not just show the data, but can explain what's happening, why it's happening, what's the root cause? So that was also one of the things that we wanted to do, and that's precisely our focus today. So integrating just all the Gen AI capabilities into the real world workflows. So this way, businesses just don't need to just get more data, but they can make smarter decisions with those data. So think of it as like moving beyond just the data analysis, but generating more actionable insights.
So this sounds like what ServiceNow is doing is constantly moving forward into this use of data for data mining, and it makes me think of like Jason Bourne movies and all those fun
Yeah, go
movies.
deeper,
Yeah,
get
go
practical insights.
enhance,
Yes.
enhance. But
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Issam, give us some use cases for people to really understand what we're all talking about. Because when you hear data, it's kind of just out there in the ether. But what are some use cases you can give us examples about?
Yeah, so for industries, let's say there's a technician who needs to classify work orders, but the technician wants to be efficient without compromising any service quality. So while the technician is classifying the work orders, we can use AI to pre-fill, let's say, 60% of the task details. So this could potentially reduce processing time by, let's say, 2 to 5 minutes per job. So let's say annually, if we have 2.5 million work orders, that can translate over 200,000 hours saved, which is perhaps could be the equivalent of adding 100 full-time technicians. So that's a lot. So that's a use case for industries and organization. But for a more a common use case could be, let's say you're a middle income person looking to optimize your monthly expenses. You can ask the AI agent, how can I cut costs without sacrificing any quality of life. So the agent can potentially look at mobile usage, food delivery habits, maybe your bank data, maybe special discounts in different supermarkets, and then tells you, oh, if you switch to this plan, you'll have $15 monthly savings. Just consolidate your food delivery orders on maybe Tuesdays because that's where the discounts are, and so on. And then you'll have a very actionable insight from this data.
Well, I like those two use cases because one is what ServiceNow does, and two is how we're actually thinking every day and expanding upon, okay, if I can do this in my own living room, how can I then do this at work with all the people I work with? Which makes a lot of sense if you're part of a team of data processors or customer service agents and more. It's these little ideas bubble up into big time and cost savings. Um, so now we're going to switch it up a little bit because, Anitha, I know you have got some great questions and some great discussion for Issam because again, Issam, you're on the team that comes up with the idea. Anitha, you're the team that comes up with how to make this into an actionable team. Kind of, we've got the clay, the raw clay, and then the sculpture at the end to use a metaphor, which I don't know how we came up with it, but it was great. And we'll let it go. So Anitha, I want you now to really Issam, I gave you softball questions. I know Anitha, she's going to really, really ask you the hard one. So Anitha, take it away.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So let's get a little bit more technical, right? Like not like research paper appendix kind of technical, but technical enough so we drill down a little bit more detail into what this Insights Bench is. So, Isam, how does this Insight Bench evaluate the AI models?
What it does is that it evaluates how well these AI models can generate deep and actionable insights across real world business scenarios. So we use 31 data sets from a range of domains that are very relevant to organizations like ServiceNow, which include HR, IT, customer service, and finance. And each of these are paired with expert written ground truth insights, or we can also call them golden insights of what is the expected insights for these data sets. We then have a model that generate AI insights for each data set and compare what the AI has generated with what the human expert has generated and see how they compare with respect to depth, like how meaningful is the insight, and actionability, how useful it is in making a decision. And then we can score them based using an LLM or an AI model to see how close the predicted insight from the AI came to delivering a valuable insight just like the human expert.
So you said that you evaluated around 31 data sets across these different domains, right? How did you pick them? Was it like assembling an Avengers team of data sources?
Almost, yeah. So it was like we want a diverse set across different departments and industries to make sure that our benchmark is not biased towards one use case or the other. So we talked to different domain experts and said, okay, what are the most relevant data sets that reflect real business problems? So figure out incident reports, HR surveys, ticketing data, customer feedback. These are all like very common business use cases. And then we also talked to the experts to make sure that they were clean, high quality, and also well vetted.
What's been the most surprising results so far? Like models just blow your mind away, or they are still in like, oh, this needs a lot of improvement phase, kind of.
Yeah, some models really surprise us. Like we've seen some subtle, like we've seen the model identify subtle correlations, like linking customer churn with changes in internal policy that even like our data analysts couldn't catch immediately. You know, one of our favorites is when the model flagged a spike in IT incidents and linked it back to a software update rollout. So that was very actionable. It tells us what actually happened.
So I just want to come in here real quick and I want to ask, because this is where we're getting into Agent Poirot. And this to me, just the name alone is great, but it really has that great connection to solving this mystery that we're going to find. So Anitha, you know more about this than I do. So please, really have Issam and the two of you explain Agent Poirot to us.
Yes. AgentPoirot, the Sherlock Holmes kind of AI. Issam, tell us more about this and what does AgentPoirot do in terms of what can it do, and then we'll go for what is missing. So let's start with what can it do.
Yeah, I mean, just to give a bit of context, the idea was to create like a digital detective, someone who could sift through the business data and uncover hidden stories. Originally, we wanted to call it Sherlock Holmes, but everyone is using it. My mom's favorite author is Agatha Christie, so I saw the detective there, and I chose Hercule Poirot for our method. And yeah, and so uh, the way AgentPoirot performs is that it's very strong on basic to mid-level insights, like it can identify trends, anomalies, and relationships. But when it comes to deep insights that kind of require like strategic thinking or domain context, there's still a bit of room to grow. We would say that there's like three different stages in analytics. One is descriptive, like explaining what happened; diagnostic, why it happened; prescriptive, like what to do next. So we found that Poirot is really good at descriptive, knowing what happened. That's kind of okay, good enough for like diagnostic, understanding why things happen. But for actionability, like what to do next, this is something that we want to push the boundaries for.
So what is something that needs to be done in terms of technical things that we need to do to get to that level?
Something like agentic data analytics. Like we need to have Agent Poirot analyze much wider range of tables. It needs to be able to use much more advanced data analytics tools, and it should be able to also like maybe sift through the internet or talk to different users, or maybe sift through chat history in order to be able to acquire much better insights. The goal of InsightBench is we carefully designed it so that it gives companies and industries a trustworthy way to evaluate their AI. So if anyone is building a tool to generate insights, they can use this benchmark to know if their insights is accurate, if it's factual, if it's deep enough, if it's useful. So the goal behind InsightBench is to give companies or anyone designing an analytics tool the confidence that if they get like a good score in that benchmark, they can have the confidence that they can integrate it into their product timeline. Product pipeline.
Well, let me clarify or ask you to clarify that a little bit, because that's something that I know both of you are the experts in when it comes to AI. So that we have AI is pulling from data pools and AI is working with everyone's data. And there's always this idea of hallucinations, and we've moved a lot past that. But it's always getting into how much better can we make this? So is this almost like a double or triple check of that data, or what the insights are? Is that a fair question to ask both of you?
Like I mentioned before, it's not just generating those insights, right? Are you going to evaluate those insights that got generated? Are they accurate? Are they factual? That's where all these insight bench capabilities come into play.
So there are some evaluation mechanisms that we have tried out where like if it generates an insight, there's a chance that the model is lying, give you like numbers that are hallucinated. So we have some checks to verify if that backtrack, like given that outputted insight, can we backtrack and find that value in the original source? So we have mechanisms of that to make sure if the insights are truthful or not.
We know that it makes a big impact in every industry, but are there specific industries or places, domains that actually need to pay more attention to this insight bench?
Yeah, so the good thing is like analytics is like almost a lot of the world needs it because knowledge is power, and anytime you want to make a decision, it's good to make an informed decision with knowledge. So I would say like any companies that's doing large scale analytics, and I would see we see a huge potential in, let's say, telecom for, let's say, customers segmentation and churn prediction, maybe healthcare for patient care trends, or finance, manufacturing, retail, or any sector that relies on operational insights. Because then these industries can try to analyze trends, forecast behavior, make, like I said, informed decision. And for that, you need reliable insights. So that InsightBench helps ensure that the AI you're building has trustworthy insights.
So did you find anything like most surprising or funny things that that happened while you were working on InsightsBench?
Yeah, there was this phase where the model would detect even the tiniest variance in the data, like 0.2% change, and label it as a major insight with high severity. It's like it's like if there's like a small ripple, it just says, "Oh, this is a tsunami," and we had a hard
Exactly what we
time.
don't want it.
Yeah, we
That's why
don't
we
want
need
it.
a
We had a
bench.
hard time.
That's why we need the Insights bench.
Exactly. It took us a while, but then we just trained the AgentPoirot by saying, "Oh, can you please use proper significance measures, like statistical measures, to say that only say it's significant when it's mathematically significant."
I've got a question on that because that's something that's really fascinating to me and anybody who's really starting to think about AI and how, again, how fast we've come is that AI is giving you answers and you're going, wait a second, that answer is a little different than what I expected. Now I need you to explain yourself. I need you to better explain it to me what you did. It's like you're having a conversation with your data. Is that a correct way of thinking about it, Issam?
Yeah. So we found that, what we found is that when we don't ask the model to give justification, sometimes it gives bad results. But if you ask the model to give justifications, you identify where the problem is. Like, for example, in this case, like it was using the word significant very loosely. So by talking with the AI, you understand its mindset and how it's thinking, and that's how it allowed us to fix the problem.
It misunderstood significant, or it placed more significance on significance, which is a really fascinating way to think about this and kind of harkens back to this, the LLMs and the linguistics and the language that we're all using. We're almost rewriting the dictionary, so to speak. Is that something that you see happening with how we're working with and training our AI?
For sure, because the AI is trained on like the internet in a lot of domains. And what one word means in one domain can be very different what that word means in another domain. And if we don't specify, let's say, significance, if we don't specify that we want mathematical significance, it could completely use the word in a completely different context, which is what sometimes what we don't want. So we need to add that sometimes that information when we ask the AI to perform, let's say, analytics.
So that's where that human insight and the humanity of it all comes into really guiding this through. And Anitha, I'm sorry. These are questions I had that
No,
for
no,
somebody
no,
who's
no.
not an
These
AI
are
expert,
great questions.
I got to know these things because we all have to learn this. But I know, to kind of get us wrapped up, because I know we can spend forever talking about this. I know you had some big questions about the future of all this and where things are going.
The future of this is going to what we call like agentic data analytics. So there's this agentic keyword here, where we have the AI agents to go beyond just retrieving data from a table, like Agent Poirot, and go have the agent to do stuff like go to the computer, pull in some company documents, analyze chats, emails, and logs, go to different websites, cross-reference between different websites, make sure the information is consistent, make sure things are factual. So, and then synthesizing all that information and get like a very good synthesized, concise set of insights that aggregates all that information from all these multiple sources.
Anitha, that brings the big question back to you. So we see where Issam is going with this. For you, in the next 5 years, 5 years is a lifetime. It seems like an AI. Let's say the next few
In AI
years.
world, it is.
Yeah, yeah, a few. We'll have to discern and describe what few is. But the next few years of the future, where do you see this going as far as analytics?
I totally agree with what Issam was talking about. So, ServiceNow is actually doing a lot of work with these agentic AI. In the last release, we really, had so many use cases on agentic AI. And in the analytics world, we are exploring it. We are trying to enhance all these things that we talked about earlier to make sure that, how can we bring in that agentic AI capability into analytics. So that is what we are thinking about, and we are constantly working on those terms. So that's where, yeah, it's a big world out there, and it is still a lot of research is going on, and we are trying to see. We work very closely with Issam's team so that we can bring in those research elements and try to, as you said, productize those.
Oh, please don't give me credit for that word. My English is terrible. So there you have it, a little bit of an insight into InsightsBench and how research can become a product and makes all this AI that we're working with that much better and more accurate and more concise, which is what we want after all. And if you're really interested in more about this research paper, we're going to put the link to the research paper in the show notes. Anitha, it's a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about, our product, our collaboration and everything. Thank you so much.
And Issam, again, a real pleasure to talk to you as well and hearing more about AgentPoirot and all of that.
Thanks a lot, Bobby. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. It's also a very nice exercise to be able to distillate what we did to the general audience.
So thank you everyone for listening and watching. I'm your host, Bobby Brill. And for more information about the product, head over to ServiceNow.com. And to check out our doc page where you can get all of the how-tos and insights into the product, head over to www.servicenow.com/docs. Thanks for listening.